You want to hear? If you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans. And I'll tell you what, Mike, we're off to the races here. I want to talk to you about this. This is kind of what you're touching on. You know, don't plan out too far. Whatever, you can lose everything you have in a minute. You know, it's many stories detailed over history talking about tragedy like that. You know, but I remember doing a very, very difficult time in my life. There's not one successful guy that I know that hasn't had his butt kicked in life, if not many times, right?
Yeah.
And I remember being at the lowest of the low. This was years ago, thank God.
Yeah.
And I was just coming out from a real tough business situation, licking my wounds, and I was buying a car, and I was getting a car loan for the first time in a while. And I had a dear friend of mine. I had my butt kicked. I mean, you've had your times, Mike. Anyhow, and he took me aside. I said, I can't believe it. You know, I risked millions of dollars and lost my butt and blah blah blah. He took me aside. He said, Greg, he's probably 20 years younger than me. He said, Greg, great man. Guys out there, they're like captains of ships, okay? Captains of ships have either hit a swell or they're going to hit a swell, right?
Yep.
There's no such thing. I've never seen a successful person, you know, who hasn't really had their butts kicked. And often at the awful times, sometimes later in life, I've seen people go rag to, you know, Wyatt Earp died a poor man. Wyatt Earp died a poor man. I mean, there's all those stories.
George Washington.
So the moral of the story.
George Washington was killed by a bad medical procedure, and he was pretty much broke. Every one of the signatories of the Declaration of Independence, they lost everything. Right. They lost their homes.
And a lot of those guys died. Oh yeah, a lot of them died. Oh yeah. You know, if young people could know the sacrifice. But the moral of the story, it's funny you say this, Mike, because you talk to a real, a vast array of people, of group. Your demographics are eclectic, of course, being a pastor and being a radio guy. And I have a really eclectic, big-time demographic of people that I talk with, and a lot of really successful men, many people that I have never even talked about publicly. But the one common denominator I find about them is I'm talking multi-millionaires now, you know, not 7-8 figure stuff, maybe 9-figure stuff, Mike. And the one common denominator I find is they all seem to be really humble. It's almost and we're not talking the Bill Gates of the world, but it's almost like the more successful they got, you know, no one gets to that point without having worked their tails off. Nobody. You don't get to be successful without working your tail off. But there's humility. And one dear friend of mine yesterday from back east say his biggest concern every single day, Mike, get this, every single day, the guy's making a ton of money, is losing it overnight, like something breaking or some bad thing happening and just losing it. He lives in fear every day.
Yeah.
Not fear, but just doesn't enjoy the joy, because I'm saying, by the way, dude, you're really doing well. You're making tens of thousands of dollars a month. Enjoy it, dude. But so worry and fear is not exclusive to any age group or socioeconomic group or whatever. Worry and fear is part of so many people's lives, Mike. You see it at your church. We see it every day with Americans around the country and stuff, and Canadians. They worry too much. There's too much fear. We really do need, indeed, to enjoy the day. You know, carpe diem, man. Carpe diem.
Yeah, I mean, look, every